Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Paola and today I am with the incredible Anna-Marie McLemore and Taylor Cave Mejia. We are here to do an interview for Miss Meteor. So would any of you like to give us a little bit of a synopsis, tell us why we should be excited about this book?
How do you describe this? Taylor? I always describe it as like the Stardust and Selena book.
It's about extraterrestrials and a beauty pageant, which go together better than you would think.
Love it.
It's a small town book about two ex-best friends who have to team up to enter a beauty pageant for reasons both ethereal and very high school revenge. They have their own separate motivations for entering, and throughout the process do some like falling in love with other people, not each other, FYI. And, rediscovering their friendship a little, which is fun. It was fun to write. Sad, but fun.
They do it with the help of a team of former beauty pageant contestant sisters.
They do. The sisters. I cracked the book open just like waiting to get in this meeting, and I just found some like Fresa dialogue and I was like dying. I was like, oh, she's perfect. I'm gonna write a whole book just about her someday.
It was such a great book to read. First of all, you will not be able to put it down. And second of all, it's just a fun story that has very important subjects such as like friendship and discovering one's sexuality. It's a lot of fun, but it's also a little bit hard to read because of those themes, but it is 100% worth it. Everybody go pre-order it. What was the writing process like and the experience of doing a book together?
Can we say whirlwind? It was a whirlwind. We did it so fast. Like there was a lot of stuff after, but we drafted this book like page 1 to page whatever the last page is in 8 days. Was it 8 days?
It was 8 days. I will say that was after like it was months of us trying to figure this book out and like what like the center of it was.
Yeah.
But when we figured it out, I think it was 8 days. And I remember just like I kept writing my chapters because I wanted your next chapter.
That's exactly what I did the whole time. Because we would say, okay, it's Tuesday, let's exchange one chapter today. You do one, I'll react with one. And then we'd write like 5 each and look up and it's like 1 a.m. Like, what happened?
Yeah. That's so cool that you got to write it so fast, and because of the excitement, that's very wholesome. I love that.
I mean, when we first started talking about it, I don't remember whose idea it was or if it just organically happened, but I was nervous because I didn't have a book out yet, and I was a fan of Anna-Marie before I ever was friends with them, so I was like, oh no, but it sounds so fun, but then I have to write stuff and they're gonna read the stuff and it's terrifying. But no, I was scared, but it actually turned out to be so much fun.
And I think there was this magic in the fact that we both had these half ideas that were not whole books, and when I forget what it was, we were just talking about like ideas we had in books we wanted to write, and we each talked about like our half of it, and then we thought, wait, that's the same book. Like these ideas belong in the same book.
How did you make Meteor New Mexico come alive? How did you give the people in it their idiosyncrasy?
I think part of it was like combining this love for desert landscapes and like the beauty of it, and like what I remember these conversations we had about loving different elements of the desert and combining that with sort of like a tourist trap and like what some of that feels like. You have the chickies who are like, seriously, we're gonna talk about this again, and you have the leaders who are like, I'm so happy we live near this. It's the best thing ever.
Yeah, I think the most fun we had, and I don't even know how many of these things made it into the book, but was just naming space-themed things. And so I think that's like, we started building this like totally wacky, ridiculous town just by naming all these funky things that would relate to our tourist trap. But then also, I grew up in a really small town, and there are definitely things about being different, being queer, being not exactly the default race or culture that are tough to deal with. So I think definitely exploring like what that's like on top of having this like totally zany thing going on made a cool contrast.
It was super cool to read about because it was all in the details. Everybody read this book. It's so atmospheric. You will really feel like either a citizen or a tourist.
I think that's one of my favorite thing about all of Anna Marie's books is just the little details that make you feel like the town is a real place. Like really feel like you were just walking through the town, and it's so I'm lucky to have gotten to write in an Anna Marie town.
There's a lot of that detail in Chicky's chapters about that same sense of detail about sisters. And that was not a world that I knew because I don't have sisters. Those little things about like having how like this sort of you called it sort of the chorus of sisters, right Taylor?
Chorus, yeah. Like the muses, I think that's how I started first describing them.
It was super fun to read too. I think that was part of what helped these town and all of these characters come to life and feel like I was friends with them or that I knew them. So what was your high school experience like compared to your main characters?
We both put our hands to our faces.
I'm like, I'm gonna hide.
It was funny. I saw you like putting your hands to your face as mine were already coming up, and I was like, oh wow. So I think something that was both wonderful and uncomfortable about this book is that we are not these characters, but there's a lot of us in each of these characters. And I think something that I did relate to with Lita is like this combination of being very, very observant about some things and very clueless about other things. Like I would notice things about individual people, but I would miss like big things about like the herd mentality, like what you were supposed to be doing. I was having these like memories of like, oh, I didn't even know that I had put that into Lita because it was me, like wearing these sort of, oh gosh, these clothes that were at the same time kind of babyish because I had outgrown them in both like style and size. So they're kind of babyish, but also they're a little slutty because they're too short and I'm like going through puberty. And it was like, thank you for laughing because I have to laugh now because I couldn't laugh then. And like looking back at that, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a little bit Lita. I'm going to hand it to you, Taylor, so I don't keep cringing.
I mean, I think that one of the big themes of this book, like we kept going back and forth and going like, that's awful and sad, but so funny. Like it was so much that. So it's just like so classic that the experiences are like those things that you just have to laugh. For me, besides the family stuff, I grew up in a super poor, struggling for money family, so that came through a lot. And then also, I was just a pissed off kid. Like I was not nice. I wasn't really like, but I like deeply cared about people, but I was terrible at showing it because I thought being nice to people was like opening yourself up to be hurt. So I was just like sarcastic all the time. I'm out here being like, your shirt looks dumb, but on the inside I'm like, please love me. But before you know what people's boundaries are and like what's too mean to say. So there are definitely some moments of Chicky going way overboard with what she thinks is like a teasing remark that actually hurt someone's feelings, and that's like straight out of the High School Taylor playbook.
And so who did you write this book for?
I mean, I think we wrote it for queer Latinx readers. That was the main thing. And I mean, definitely a little bit ourselves when we were queer Latinx teenagers, not knowing what the hell was ever going on. But yeah, I think it's funny, when we first wrote the book, we were like, where we first started outlining, we were like, let's just do it straight up, like straight characters. Like what if all the romances are just like straight people, and neither of us have ever done that before, so let's just whatever, let's try it. It'll be, and I think we made it like 12 hours into the writing process.
I think that was about it. And I think our emails almost crossed where you were like, so something about Chicky. And I was like, so something about Cole. Like we practically sent those emails or text or whatever they were at the same time.
I think as soon as we got a handle on what the story was, that's who it was always for.
I love that. I love that answer so much because that really is at the heart of this book. And the idea of like finding your community within your community, because I think that's some of what these characters do.
We talk about found family a lot, I think, in both of our works, but this is an interesting thing because they're both people who sort of have a family, even if it's not a traditional one, but they still find, their
Yeah.
people in a different way, which I thought was so fun to write.
It was fun to read too. Like I keep saying this, but it was a beautiful, beautiful thing to witness because they both had their support systems outside of their friend group, but their friend group was also so, so important and so real to me. It was incredible. Everybody watching this interview, just do it already. I don't know what you're doing with your life. Pre-order this book already. So I wanted to get into quotes, one from each of you, that I found really, really fitting for this book. The one from Taylor goes, I wanted to show how sometimes that better life and all the privileges associated with it can sometimes distance you from feeling like you belong in your own world, and what to do when you come to terms with the fact that those sacrifices gave you privilege. The duty you feel to the people who gave you that life, even while you're not sure where you fit in it. Do you embrace it and erase the pieces of yourself to fit in, or do you find ways to weaponize the privilege and use it to fight back against the people wielding it against your community? And then from Anna Marie, the quote is, the spaces in between is where we fit and where we worry we don't fit and where we find that we ultimately want to fit. And so my question is, how do you make those spaces to to fit your characters in, but also you're in the publishing industry? So not just your fictional characters, but I guess your books.
So feelings with this question. This is a beautiful question. And I believe I think the quote that you're talking about is talking about When the Moon Was Ours, I believe. And part of why I'm having feelings is like thinking about I'm there in that interview talking about like I'm talking about what I knew I was, being Latinx, being mixed race. I didn't know that I was trans, and I was there talking about being trans. And so sometimes like you can't even make that space for yourself yet, and that's the beginning of the process, and then sharing it with other people. And part of that is related to gender identity, part of that is related to queerness, part of it is related to sharing as best as best we can. And I hope that this book is part of that, like that Latinx identity is not a monolith, that it means many, many different things, and that we need many different stories to do that. Having bookshelves reflect our worlds, and also saying to each other, like you belong here, you have space here, like I will make space for you, we will make space for you. That's something it's beautiful work, and it's work that we do forever. And it's not always easy, because the world will fight you on that. But it's also not work we do alone. It's work we learn to do because somebody did it for us first.
I love that answer.
Like, I'm literally just crying. I don't how am I supposed to follow that? You're perfect. That was I'm like, you can cut this if you want, but I'm so proud of you. That was beautiful. It's so
Thank you.
I know you.
I have setting spray on, so I'm good. I was like, okay, there are gonna be tears. No, I did the setting spray. Okay. I appreciate that, because like this is it's a weird process, like, and like redefining your identity when you've already put stuff out there about your identity, and sharing more about it. And how do you do that? And I know that's like whether like whoever you are and whatever it is you do, that's something that so many of us experience.
It's true. And I think from my end, a lot of what I write about is acknowledging that you have privilege, even though it can be easy to use being queer or being Latinx as like a shield against being responsible for your privilege and the power you sometimes have over people that are in your own community. And it's not power we want, and it's not privilege that we asked for, but if we have it, the only thing to do is acknowledge that we have it and use it to protect and help people who don't have it. And I think sometimes it can feel like a relief to hide behind being marginalized, even if you have a ton of privilege. But for me, writing is such an act of like cracking open why I feel ashamed of having privilege and why I feel guilty for having it, and how important it is to, instead of like hiding in those feelings of like being ashamed or feeling guilty, just acknowledging that it exists and turning it into something that can protect or help somebody else, because that's what community is, that's what belonging is. And there are so many opportunities to do that in publishing, and to me that just looks like, you know, kicking doors open behind you. Like if you get to pass through, hold it open for somebody else. I think that's where it comes back around to Anna Marie's answer, is like the whole thing is just community. It's just, you know, receiving kindness and paying it forward.
I love those answers. Thank you so much for being so honest, for being vulnerable with these answers, because the book feels very raw and emotional. And I really, really appreciate you expressing your thoughts on how to make spaces for other people. Moving on to a lighter subject, if you could have only one full meal at Selena's diner, what would you order?
Okay, so I have to preface this by saying, like, this is the magical world where I'm either gonna have to order as Lita, or I'm gonna have to pretend this is the magical world where I have no food allergies.
Same. Yeah, I have to do the same. I don't think I could eat one thing on the Selena's menu. Like I'm pretty sure that I'm allergic to everything they make there. Okay, let's trade off. I'm gonna go appetizer first. I want tater tot nachos.
I think partially like drawing inspiration from Lita, like probably she would just do like a milkshake for an appetizer.
Entree, I think I have to go for the mac and cheese with the chilies in it. Like it's such an important plot point. I'm allergic to gluten and dairy, so I can't have mac and cheese ever anymore. So if this is like an amazing wish fulfillment moment.
There's a nopal grilled cheese, right?
Yes.
I think, okay, yeah, that's my pick.
Okay, dessert. I put some thought into this actually, because I don't think we did a dessert menu, did we? Besides the infamous the cupcake. But I think mine would be like churro chips that you dip in ice cream. That's what I would put on there. The other thing I thought of, which is a breakfast and not a dessert, and that's why I didn't say it, was flan cakes, like pancakes, only flan flavored.
Yes.
I'm loving the director's cut of the Selena's menu.
And so before we finish off, would you like to talk about your upcoming projects?
You want to go first on this question? Because you just had a book come out.
My debut middle grade just came out. It's called Paola, Santiago, and the River of Tears. It's a La Llorona inspired middle grade ghost story adventure. And then I have the sequel for that, Paola, Santiago, and the Forest of Nightmares, is out next summer. And then I just got to announce my next young adult novel, which is called, at the moment, Lucha, although I'm sure that will change because it'll always change. But yeah, that one's set in like a spooky ancient forest, and it has a lot of complex family dynamics. I got to do another sister relationship for that one. It's about a girl she's the first wielder of magic in her generation, who has to fight back against an ancient evil inhabiting a forest around her village. So that's not coming out until 2022. But I just got to announce. I'm very excited. I never thought I would sell one book, and I just sold my 6th and 7th. And I'm just like, okay, like, we're writing books.
Incredible. Standing ovation.
Thank you. And I'm so excited for Anna Marie's next book, so you go.
So in March, I have the Mirror season coming out, which is about a secret forest, an enchanted pasteleria, and 2 sexual assault survivors who are sort of rediscovering their magic while also finding out the truth about what happened to them the night that they were both assaulted. It was a very personal book. It was a hard book to write, but it was also a book where I got to And I think I learned a lot of this writing Miss Meteor, where like I got to be funny while also writing about things that are very hard. Because when you write about things and you talk about things that are very hard, like you have to find ways to laugh. And that's something that I think was kind of with me, like coming off of Miss Meteor, and that I learned to do even more while we were writing Miss Meteor, and that I sort of carried with me forward into writing Mirror Season.
I'm really, really excited about that book.
Me too.
And I'm super excited that you get to write the sequel, or that you got to write the sequel for Paola Santiago. That must be super exciting. I love middle grade fantasy. I cannot wait to read that book and, you know, the other ones in the series. Is it going to be a trilogy, a duology? Can you tell us?
Not really. We'll say at least 2, and my fingers are crossed. Love an author, buy their books, because that's how we get to write more.
Do everyone a favor and buy Anna Marie's and Taylor K. Mejia's books. So I wanted to close with a quote from Anna Marie. I think it was a guest post called "Where Our Magic Lives," and it says, "Magical realism isn't just about seeing the extraordinary in the ordinary. In a culture of oppression, seeing the magical in the midst of the tragic, the unjust, the heartbreaking is a way of survival for people, for communities, for cultures. We must find our magic where it lives, or we will lose it. Our spirits depend on not overlooking that which might be dismissed or ignored." I feel like that quote is super fitting for Miss Meteor, and I hope to take it with you so that that is enough, and that this interview is enough for you to be interested in the book. It's a very lovely story about friendship and family and discovering yourself, coming of age. it's beautiful, and I cannot wait for it to be out in the wild, and so that people can enjoy it. Thank you, Taylor and Anna Marie, for doing this with me.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone who is watching. Don't forget to pre-order the book. I will leave links to the pre-order thingy down there, as well as Anna Marie and Taylor's socials and their websites and everything that you need, so that you can find them and love them and shout about them. Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much.